Hey, welcome to Digging Into the Bible. My name is Jim Barnard. This is a production of Tiller Coaching. All right, it is day 41. We are halfway there. So we're going to be in the book of Acts for 82 days straight. There's 82 episodes in this season of Digging Into the podcast, which means we made it halfway. That's so cool, man. Thanks for being on this ride with me. I'm learning a lot. I hope you are as well. If you're enjoying this, I just ask that you would, rate, review, subscribe to this podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on a podcast service. Professional podcasters say it helps, so let's go with that. Well, today we are looking at Paul and Barnabas continuing on their missionary journey. They're going to 2 new cities, and let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and dig in. This is Acts chapter 14, starting at verse 1. Now at Iconium they entered together into the Jewish synagogue and spoke in such a way that a great number of both Jews and Greeks believed. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brothers. So they remained for a long time, speaking boldly for the Lord, who bore witness to the word of his grace, granting signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the people of the city were divided. Some sided with the Jews, some with the apostles. When an attempt was made by both Gentiles and Jews with their rulers to mistreat them and to stone them, they learned of it and fled to Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and to the surrounding country. And there they continued to preach the gospel. Now at Lystra there was a man sitting who could not use his feet. He was crippled from birth and had never walked. He listened to Paul speaking, and Paul, looking intently at him, and seeing that he had faith to be made well, said in a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." And he sprang up and began walking. And when the crowd saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in Lycaonian, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men." Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And the priest of Zeus, whose temple was at the entrance to the city, brought oxen and garland to the gates and wanted to offer sacrifice with the crowds. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of it, they tore their garments and rushed out into the crowd, crying out, "Men, why are you doing these things? We are also men of like nature with you, and we bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to a living God, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them. In past generations he allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways, yet he did not leave himself without witness, for he did good things. He did good by giving you rains from heaven and fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness." Even with these words, they scarcely restrained the people from offering sacrifices to them. All right, so one thing that's is kind of hitting me here is that there's probably 4 categories of people, and actually maybe a bonus 5th that we're going to learn about. There's the Jews, and then there's the believing Jews, so unbelieving and believing, and we're talking about believing in Jesus. And then there's the Gentiles, and then there's the believing Gentiles, so unbelieving Gentiles, and then believing Gentiles. We'll get into the bonus 5th one here in a moment, but there's a clear difference in this first stop. The Jews repeat the same pattern. The crowd comes out, and there's jealousy. There's a lot of enthusiasm for the things that Paul is saying, and so the Jewish leaders they really ramp up the pressure. They add a lot of tension. They try to make it very difficult for Paul and Barnabas to do ministry, and it incites so much tension that now the Gentiles, the unbelieving version, they're now in the mix, and it's kind of a race, like who's going to be able to stone Paul and Barnabas first. So they flee out of there, and they head on over to Lystra. And when they're there, Paul sees this man, he notices him in the crowd, and heals him. And it's so good that Paul recognized what was happening and wanted to take care of this man's needs. But when they were when they were done with this healing, with this miracle, there's this 5th category, so Gentiles and believing Gentiles, and then a different sort of believing Gentiles. So their context has very little context for Jesus or Messiah. They are viewing Paul and Barnabas as if they are Greek gods, and they're offering sacrifices like they would to Greek gods. And so they're believing Gentiles, they're just believing in the wrong thing. I love what Paul says to them in verse 15. Men, why are you doing these things? Such a straight to the point question. Honestly, it's a question that I think we all need to be asking ourselves and our fellow men and women. Why are you doing these things? If we are in a category where we are not believing or believing in the wrong thing, man, we have to have this kind of challenge. And we're going to see tomorrow how this plays out in the long run. That's kind of a disturbing pattern, but Paul's challenge is exactly what needs to be given, and it's full of the Holy Spirit, because there's no part of Paul that wants to accept these sacrifices, that wants to be glorified. It is Jesus that he wants to glorify, and so he's doing a good job to call it out. All right, so I'm over time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow as we continue on with Acts chapter 14. I will see you then.